delighted to be here to share your afternoon with you, talk a little bit about maybe some potential trends in the industry, and a little bit about this little-known company that I work with called Kia and where we're headed going forward for the next few years. Before I get started, the colors are kind of washed out on this slide. I want to just stare at this for a second. Let me show you. Let me explain it. This is the auto industry dating back to 1925. And as you can see by the shark tooth zigs and zags, the industry has a habit of overcorrecting in a good way and in a not so good way. You stare at this chart, if you look over on the far right, that's 2009, 2010, what you really see when you're looking at that, it looks like a downward line. That's not good. But what you're looking at is the largest volume drop in U.S. automotive history. It's the largest percentage drop since World War II, when we didn't build or sell anything. And we survived. And so the big question when you look at this chart is, okay, now what? Where do we go from here? Well, I'll spend a few minutes today. In deference to Herman Edwards, I'll try and do two things today. I'll try and be on time, and I will try and share our plan with you. So going forward, we'll talk a little bit about the economy, very little. You're going to get a little more detail on economic issues as it relates to your business over the course of the next day or so. Tomorrow, I think there's a session on that. A little bit on technology, a little bit on changing demographics, and where we see the industry headed in terms of age and the like. We'll get to that in a minute. And then we'll also talk for just a few minutes about Kia. Who are we? Who are we? You know, we kind of burst on the scene here the last few years. What's our approach? So we'll do that over the course of the next half an hour or so. All right, so let's start off with the economic stuff, okay? Gross domestic product, pretty stable, looks to be pretty stable in the coming years. Not so stable in the recent past. I give it a thumbs up. That's a good sign. Next slide. Consumer confidence and consumer spending. Consumer spending is up, and it's driven a lot by durable goods and it's cars, and it's driven as a result of some pent-up demand. But the red line, what looks kind of sort of red, is consumer confidence, and that's getting better and looks to be good. I give it a thumbs up. Employment. How do you rate this one? Still over 8%, well above traditional levels that we've seen in the recent past, but headed in the right direction. I squinted at this one because I think it's important that it is trending ever so slightly in the right direction. I give it kind of a, we'll watch it. Next item, housing outlook. I can tell you, that housing starts are going to improve, but where the pressure is going to come from in 2012 in particular is pressure on the pricing as a result of banks doing what they do to liquefy their assets. I give it a thumbs down on housing. It's a problem. It's the elephant in the room, along with jobs, of course. And this one, I put this slide in the deck 2 weeks ago, and already it's out of date. I mean, the gas will hit at the rate we're going at. Well, gas is already $4.40 a gallon in my neighborhood. I give it a thumbs down. Nobody knows. Overall, from the industry, we're projecting an increase. I use this slide with the press. This is my good news, bad news slide. The bad news is we're looking at a 13.6 industry. The good news is we're looking at a 13.6 industry. And you know what? When you're planning your business, look a couple years to the right, 2014, 2015. We're looking at a 15 to 16 industry. It's going to happen barring continued unrest in the Middle East. and some other natural disasters and the like. A 15-16 industry, and it's going to be a healthy 15-16 industry. It's not going to be propped up by artificial, excess capacity and artificial pricing. It's going to be a very healthy 15-16 million, and that's what you need to plan your business around. I give it a thumbs up. Okay, let's get into the industry. This is how we see it changing. The slide really doesn't do it justice for the graphic, but let me just say that alternative fuels are going to represent about 15% of our business over the course of the next few years. By 2015, 2016, it will about double. So said another way, today's industry in traditional petrol-fueled vehicles will stay fairly constant. It'll grow a little bit. The alternative fuel side will grow. It doesn't sound like a lot. 15% of a 16 million industry. I'm graduated from the middle of my class of public school. I don't know what that number is, but it's something less than 2 million. Diesel and hybrid are going to see most of the tailwind. There is a lot being said about electric vehicles. It will continue to grow, and on a percentage base, it will multiply 2, 3, maybe even 4 times between now and 2015. Still, not that many cars. In fact, take a look at this slide. This is the electric vehicles that will be available for sale in 2015, competing for that 400,000 units or so. Those are the ones we know about. It's going to be crowded. Anyway, alternative fuels will play a role in our future. This particular graphic will really play a role in our future. This is the U.S. population, the shift in ages between 2000 and 2016 in just the next 5 years. This is a central point as it relates to the whole budget deficit, with 50% of the current budget, federal budget, tied around entitlements. It's going to get worse, folks. All of us that are in the car business need to think about being relevant. We all market to young adults. There's lots of reasons for that. But we need to be relevant to that age demographic that's in unfortunately, my category, that is going to continue to age. And look at what happens 10 years from now. That's fueling all the discussion with entitlements on Capitol Hill these days. So big population shifts as a brand, as a company. It's critically important that we are all relevant to that age bracket. Okay, quick look at the segments. You folks already know this. Compact and mid-sized car segments will continue to take the lion's share of the car business. This is not that good a graphic. It doesn't show it so well, but the subcompact segment will double in size over the course of the next 4 years. It will grow to almost 1 million units. It will become the 6th largest segment in the United States. Opportunity for those that can compete in that segment. Luxury segment will grow a little bit too. Maybe that has something to do with the aging population. Not so sure. Let's look on the truck side. CUVs. Big, medium, small, doesn't matter. Truck business will grow. Pickup truck business will grow a little bit. A lot of that's fueled with some pent-up demand, and it's obviously a shift from maybe 5 years ago where the pickup segment was a lot of personal use stuff. That'll be mostly commercial. The growth will be commercial. So not a lot of changes there, a little back and forth, but CUVs, lots of competition on the CUV side, lots of competition, of course, in compact and mid-sized car, and the folks that can strike quickly in the subcompact and subcompact segment have a real opportunity to win. Now, this is the amount of introductions in the next couple years. Now, a lot of this is fueled by some delayed programs as a result of difficult economic circumstances and the like, but still, in the next 2 years, I'm struggling to read it. I guess I can use my little cheater here. 29 new entries. Are you kidding me? Had to be on a swivel trying to figure out what's what. Lots of change going on in the industry, fueled by new vehicles being introduced, some of which are some of those electric vehicles that I showed earlier. Okay. This one's interesting. Never really realized this until a few years ago. 50% of all cars and trucks sold in the United States are sold in 20 markets. Man. 20 markets account for 50% of all business. So for a guy like me, a guy like Pete, we need to be relevant in those markets. In particular, we need to really be relevant in Southern California and the tri-state area, New York. The New York tri-state area accounts for almost 9% of cars sold in the United States. Can you believe it? Man. Drops off pretty quickly, but there's these 20 markets account for half the sales in the United States. I got to tell you, Kia does pretty good in the 11 through 20 area, actually 12 through 20. We don't do so well in San Francisco, although we're getting better. And this slide, more than any other slide I'll show you today, it's what's driving our strategy as we try to grow our business. Kia as a brand needs to become relevant in the top 10 markets in the United States, in particular Los Angeles and New York. Very pleased to report out that in Los Angeles, it was the fastest growing metro market area for Kia anywhere in the country last year. It's good. Still lots of opportunity for us. The industry is ginormous. So that's the perfect segue into who Kia is, especially as we set our sights on trying to attack these top 20 markets. Kia was founded in 1944. We introduced the first bicycle in Korea in 1951. We started as a bicycle company. We morphed into cars. By 1974, Kia launched Korea's first domestically produced vehicle. We entered the United States in 1994. First year in business here. 1998, the Asian financial crisis. We were acquired by the Hyundai Motor Group and are now a part of the Hyundai Motor Group. 1998. And we're especially proud of this one, and I'll talk about this one a little more, in a few more slides. We introduced and launched our very first U.S. assembly plant back in 2010 and in West Point, Georgia. And currently today, in two and a half years of production, we are producing 360,000 vehicles running 3 shifts around the clock. We have employed 3,000 direct employees at the plant. We have brought another 7,000 employees, direct and indirect suppliers to the region. All in all, we brought 10,000 jobs to West Georgia, which was decimated by the textile industry when they left. We are job makers, job takers in this country. 50% of what we sell in the United States will be built right here in the United States. We are part of the 50% club when we're on Capitol Hill talking to the folks in Washington. We are very, very proud of this. Let's keep going.
We started out with a bicycle back in 1951. From there, we kept coming up with better ways to help people get around. Today, our proudest accomplishment isn't just a vehicle. It's our state-of-the-art manufacturing facility in West Point, Georgia. Here, you'll find more than 3,000 committed team members, building 2 vehicles that show how far we've come since that first bicycle. The Kia Sorento crossover and the Kia Optima midsize sedan. We're proud of our Georgia home and believe it's just one of the reasons we've become the fastest growing car brand in the U.S.
It's an ad that we launched when we introduced originally Sorento, and of course we started running it again. It builds 2 vehicles there for us, the Kia Sorento and the Kia Optima, are 2 top volume vehicles. So let's keep going. Who are we? Okay, on a global scale, 2.5 million vehicles around the world. North America has surpassed Korea as our largest volume market. And, knock on wood, 2012, the United States will pass Korea as the largest individual market. About 550,000 or so. Well, you can read the numbers. 485,000 last year. Well, let's keep going. So let's talk about the U.S. investment. I mentioned the assembly plant. We're extraordinarily proud of that. We have invested $1.4 billion into infrastructure here in the United States over the course of the last decade. Of course, our state-of-the-art U.S. headquarters building is located on, if not the most heavily traveled, one of the top 2 or 3 heavily traveled interstate highways, most visible locations in the United States, I-5 in Orange County, California. Right next door is a Kia exclusive U.S. design center. The folks in our design center there are responsible for vehicles like the iconic Soul that was introduced a few years back. We have 755 dealers in the United States. That number's holding pretty steady. If I had to look into my crystal ball and figure out, over the next 12 or 24 months, it might go up a little, but not a tremendous amount. Something less than 800 is my guess. And of course, the assembly plant, which I mentioned. Okay, our business. I mentioned that we came to the country and launched in earnest in 1994. We have experienced 17 straight years of market share growth. Last year, we ended the year with 3.8% share. We were up 36% last year in an industry that was up half that, less than half that. This year, again, knock on wood, we're off to a pretty good start. We're up 33% through 2 months, and 2 months does not make a year. We recognize that. But, again, with some good fortune here, the back couple weeks of March, we will finish March with an all-time sales record. We will crack 50,000 for the first time. We'll probably crack 50,000 with a week to go. It will mark the 19th. I guess that's me. That's pretty cool. The 19th. That sounds like a sneeze. Okay. The 19th consecutive month that we are reporting a record sales month. You have to go back to September 2010 where we didn't break a monthly sales record. Not bad. So what does that mean? You throw it all in the blender. That's all nice, Tom. Thanks for the commercial. What does it mean? We're up 78% over a 3-year period in an industry that's down 4%. We're up more than any other mainstream brand, and I am particularly pleased to see that we are higher than another company that is a bit of an arch rival of ours. Up 78%. So here's trying to be relevant and to the conference. How do you do it? Without giving away the company store. I mean, it's interesting, and I tried to figure out how do we put this in a way, in a recipe that kind of makes sense and without getting into too much detail because we only got about 10 or 15 minutes. First of all, it's important to understand whether it's driven by the economy, it's a generational change. Value has become the new cool. So value is critically important to any of us, what you get for your money. So how do you do that? Well, everybody's heard of the purchase funnel. We have a bit of an investment strategy that I'm going to call the value funnel. So the idea here, when you look at this chart, is if you're going to make an investment, a dollar investment, what gives you the biggest return? And that would, of course, be at the top of the funnel. So as we're planning our business going forward, keeping in mind we've all heard of price volume elasticity. Think of it more as value volume elasticity, kind of a derivative. Quality, okay. Every vehicle that Kia has launched since its introduction of the Soul has received top safety pick from IIHS. Our warranty costs, without sharing the specifics, are doing this. And the assembly plant is arguably the most technologically advanced assembly plant in the world, not just here in the United States. Made investments in quality. I've covered this already. This is the commercial on the assembly plant. 10,000 jobs and the like. Okay, design. I sum up design this way. It costs just as much money to design an ugly car as it does a pretty one. So design's important. It creates a connection with an emotional connection, evokes an emotional connection with a consumer. Peter Schreier, our Chief Design Officer, gets a lot of the credit. We've introduced 9 new products over the course of the last 3 years. Our residual values have improved 49% during the 3-year period. I'm thinking 9 introductions actually over a 30-month period is more introductions than any other brand of any size in the U.S. market. Brand. Speaking of brand, investing in the brand is critical. So what we try and do with our investment in the brand is be relevant to the consumer. Pop culture is critically important so people can identify with who you are, fit into their lives. So we do things from a marketing perspective. I mean, we don't have an endless supply of money, so you have to pick and choose. We are the official automotive sponsor of the National Basketball Association. It has been a tremendous relationship for us. And has given us a platform to connect with a lot of the younger, more diversity-conscious consumer especially. NBA is a world game. The NBA basketball is a world game, and it's relevant around the world. Remember, we're a global company. Basketball in Korea is actually a pretty big deal. So we're the official automotive sponsor of the NBA. Then, the pop culture, of course, music, right? Music is something people identify with. And, why don't I just do this? I'll show you a couple commercials that kind of make my point. And before I show you this one commercial, let me talk about these hamsters for just a minute, because nobody could predict what has happened with Kia as a result of the hamsters, if you will. We've produced 3 spots. The first 2 won Effie Awards for their creativity and effectiveness. And the third one, when you watch this spot, there's a couple statistics I want to throw out at you. The gaming industry in the United States is a you can always tell when I get all riled up, is a $10 billion industry. Herm Edwards was up here a few minutes ago talking about $13 billion. Well, gaming is a $10 billion industry in the United States. 72% of all households play video games. 72%. I'm one of the 28. And of that $10 billion industry, 40% of it is in action shooter games. So when you are trying to build a brand and top 2 commercials that have already won Effie Awards, and you need to become relevant, you tie in music, video games, and more specifically, action shooter games. I'd like to run these 2 spots, and you'll get a feel for this first one in particular, which incorporates all of that. Oh, by the way, we partnered with LMFAO before their #1 song became #1, and before their dance craze, the shuffle, became the #1 dance craze in the United States this past summer. Let's show this.
I'm shuffling.
Thank you. That actually, kudos to our agency. They are the best of the best, and it took real guts to do that because that song was not on air yet. That dance craze was not the dance craze yet. And it's the first time in automotive history, honestly, with a little bit of good fortune, that an automotive company has partnered with a band and used the current #1 song in their commercial, which is the way it worked out. So this next spot will just give you an idea of the way we've tried to connect with the National Basketball Association. Athletic, agility, speed, All those sorts of things are good things to be associated with a brand, and that's why the relationship has been so good for us. And, well, let me just show you this spot. You'll get a feel for it.
Most of the stuff that's possible has already been done.
So let me just give you a quick lane, and we'll keep going here. We're almost there. So the backstory with Blake Griffin is he did that dunk at not this year's, but last year's NBA All-Star Game, the slam dunk contest. And prior to that, the NBA All-Star Games in late February, early February, we were on the Super Bowl. It was the second year we were on the Super Bowl. And you know, as you would expect when you run a Super Bowl ad, your looks online go way up and you spike, and we introduced the Optima. Well, 3 weeks later, Blake Griffin used the Optima in the NBA Slam Dunk Contest. And as happy as we were with the Super Bowl traffic and activity online, the Blake Griffin dunk brought threefold. Imagine that. Amazing. All things, you know, signed a deal with Blake Griffin, and now he's a spokesperson for us. Worked out. Anyway, interesting little tidbit. Content's important. Look, you invest 50 cents, you get $1 worth of value. It makes sense. As long as the content's relevant, something the consumer's going to use, not content for the sake of content. Dealer network. Certainly the customer experience is important. Dealers that know how to sell cars is important. Good dealers will sell more cars than bad dealers 10 out of 10 times. We like good dealers. We're working on quality, not quantity, as I mentioned before, in terms of overall dealer count. Very important. Create a customer experience that will not only connect the consumer with the brand, but also connect them with their dealer. And then in the end, price, which is really a function of how successful you are in the rest of the funnel. So the takeaway here is well, let me push one more button. So that the outcome is value. So whether you are in a business where you can use something similar to this, or you use another hierarchy in terms of channeling your investments, it's like Herm Edwards talked about having a plan. This is ours. Prerequisite to compete: quality, design, distinctive, athletic. Talked about that earlier. Create a brand that you're proud to own. Content's got to be relevant to the consumer. Network, delight the customer, take care of the customer, make the customer really, really happy. And price is just a measure of that success. So let me finish up by just a recap very quickly. Market landscape is changing incredibly quickly between demographic shifts, technological shifts, the economy, government involvement, right? Value is the new cool. Without it, you're nothing in tomorrow's world. And the last thing I'd leave you with is that the U.S. market is critically important to Kia as a brand. We've invested $1.4 billion in infrastructure, as I mentioned earlier. We are, if you recall back a few slides back, we're a 3.8% car company today. I think with what we have in the pipe, without squinting too hard, we're probably maybe a 4.8% car company or a 5% car company in the not too distant future. A 5% car company in a 15 industry is 750,000, and we're at 485 today. We're looking to manage the growth. We're excited about what the U.S. market brings to us as a brand. And we look forward to growing together with everybody in this room. So with that, I will say thank you very much for having me.